There is a 3-second window. That's it. 3 seconds. That's how long your body has to catch itself before a stumble turns into a fall that breaks a hip, ends an independent life, or worse. And here's the part almost nobody tells you. That window doesn't stay 3 seconds forever. As we get older, it shrinks. 2 seconds, 1 second, sometimes far less than that. And when it shrinks too far, even a flat sidewalk, a quiet kitchen floor, or a single step down from a porch becomes something your body can no longer fully trust itself to handle. But here's something almost nobody talks about, and it's the entire reason I'm making this video today. That window can be trained, stretched back out, made wider again. Not with pills, not with surgery, not with some expensive piece of equipment sitting in a box in your garage. With about 5 minutes a day of the right kind of movement, done the right way, spread out across your day in small pieces. If you've ever felt that little jolt of fear getting out of a chair too fast, or gripped a railing a little tighter than you used to without even thinking about it, or quietly started avoiding the grass, the gravel, the uneven sidewalk because it's just not worth the risk anymore, then I want you to stay with me for the next several minutes, because today I'm going to walk you through 6 simple, completely doable movements that retrain your body's emergency reaction system. The one system that actually decides, in real time, whether a stumble becomes a story you laugh about later at the dinner table, or a trip to the emergency room that changes the rest of your year, or the rest of your life. Before we get into any of it, I owe you a few honest words, because I take this seriously and I would never want anyone hurt trying to follow along with something I made. If you've had a recent fall, especially one that resulted in any kind of injury, please don't start a new exercise routine without getting clearance from your doctor first. Your body might still be healing in ways that aren't obvious from the outside. If you've been diagnosed with a balance disorder, Parkinson's disease, severe osteoporosis, or any neurological or inner ear condition that affects your stability, please talk to your doctor or a licensed physical therapist before trying any of this. What I'm sharing here is built for general use by healthy older adults working on everyday fall prevention, not as a replacement for medical guidance specific to your situation. A few more practical things. Always keep a wall, a kitchen counter, or a sturdy, heavy chair within arm's reach the entire time you're practicing. Not because you're expecting to fall, but because knowing that support is right there lets you relax into the movement instead of tensing up against it, and tension actually works against good balance. Skip the socks on hard flooring entirely. That combination is one of the most common causes of slips inside the home, full stop. Go barefoot if your feet are comfortable with it, because bare feet actually give your brain more honest information about the floor beneath you, which is exactly what we want for this kind of training. If barefoot isn't comfortable for you, wear shoes with a solid, non-slip sole. And finally, if anything ever causes sharp pain, sudden dizziness, or just feels wrong in a way you can't quite explain, stop immediately. Don't push through it. There is no exercise on this list worth risking an injury over. Progress at whatever pace your own body asks for, not the pace you think you should be at. Now, let's talk for a moment about why so much standard balance advice quietly fails people. Because understanding this is going to change the way you think about every single exercise we cover today. Almost everyone has heard the advice to just stand on one leg and hold it for as long as you can. And look, that's not nothing. It does something. But think honestly for a second about how falls actually happen in real life. You don't fall while standing perfectly still in the middle of your kitchen with nothing else going on. You fall while you're moving, while you're reaching up for a mug on the top shelf and your weight shifts back a little more than you meant it to, while you're turning around quickly because someone called your name from another room, while you're stepping off a curb that turns out to be an inch lower than your foot expected it to be, while you're walking across the living room carpet and your toe catches the edge of a rug you've stepped over 1,000 times before without incident. Falls happen in motion, in that split second between losing control and either catching yourself or going down. If your training never actually moves through that kind of real, off-balance moment, it isn't training the thing that actually saves you when it counts. So let's talk about what is actually happening inside your body in that critical window. Because once you understand this, the exercises themselves will make a lot more sense, and you'll understand exactly why they work instead of just following along blindly. Your sense of balance isn't one single thing. It's really 3 different systems working together, constantly, every second of every day, mostly without you ever noticing them at all. The first is your eyes, which are constantly feeding your brain information about where you are in space relative to the world around you. The second is your inner ear, a tiny, fluid-filled structure that senses motion and head position and tells your brain whether you're tipping, turning, or accelerating. And the third, the one almost nobody talks about, is the network of senses in your feet, ankles, knees, and hips that constantly report back exactly how much pressure is on which part of your foot and whether your joints are bent the way you think they're bent. This third system has a name, proprioception, but you don't need to remember that word. You just need to understand what it does. It's your body's sense of itself in space, separate from your eyes and separate from your inner ear. Here's the problem. As we age, all 3 of these systems naturally become a little less sharp. Vision changes, inner ear sensitivity can fade, and that third system, the one in your feet and joints, often declines the fastest of all, especially if you've spent decades wearing thick, cushioned shoes on flat, predictable surfaces like sidewalks and tile floors. Your feet simply stop getting the kind of varied, challenging information that keeps those sensors sharp. The nerves are still there, the muscles are still there, but the connection between them gets quieter and quieter, like a radio station slowly losing signal the farther you drive from the city. You can still technically receive it, but the message comes through weaker and slower. And that's exactly the kind of delay that turns a simple stumble into an actual fall. Here's the genuinely good news, and I want you to really hear this part. Unlike a radio signal fading into static for good, this connection in your body is not gone. It is not permanently broken. It is just underused. And underused systems respond remarkably well at any age to the right kind of repeated, specific challenge. Your nervous system has not forgotten how to do this. It simply needs a reason to wake back up. And that reason needs to be repeated often enough and consistently enough that your body decides it's worth keeping that connection sharp. That is the entire purpose behind every single one of the 6 exercises I'm about to walk you through. Exercise 1. The doorway lean. This is where we start because it directly targets that proprioceptive system in your feet and ankles that we just talked about. And it does it in one of the safest possible setups. Find a doorway in your home, stand in the middle of it, and rest one hand lightly on each side of the frame, just barely touching, not gripping tightly. Now, keeping your back completely straight and your core gently engaged, lean your entire body forward from your ankles, like a tall tree bending slightly in a steady wind. Don't bend at your hips or your waist. The motion comes from your ankles. As you lean forward, pay attention to your toes. You'll feel them spread out and grip into the floor almost automatically, trying to create traction to stop you from tipping further. Right before you'd actually need to take a step forward to catch yourself, let your feet and ankles pull your body back upright to center. That's 1 repetition. Do 10 in a row and repeat that set 3 or 4 times throughout your day. A common mistake here is letting the hips do the work instead of the ankles, which completely changes what you're training. So really focus on keeping your body as straight as a single board, tipping forward and back. Once 10 reps in a row feels genuinely easy and stable, you can make it harder by holding a small book or a light 2 or 3 pound weight against your chest, which forces your toes and ankles to work noticeably harder to pull you back. Exercise 2. The catch step. This one trains something the doorway lean doesn't, which is your reaction to sideways instability. And sideways falls happen more often than most people realize, especially when reaching for something off to one side or turning quickly. Stand tall next to a sturdy, heavy chair, with your fingertips resting lightly on the back of it rather than gripping hard. Take a small, quick step out to your right side, almost like you're catching yourself from tipping in that direction, and then bring your foot back to center under control. Immediately do the same thing to your left side. That's 1 full repetition. Aim for 10 repetitions on each side. The goal here isn't height or speed for show. It's control and quickness together. You're essentially teaching your hips and ankles to respond instantly instead of freezing up for that crucial extra half second, which is often exactly the difference between catching yourself and going down. As this becomes easier, try doing it with just 1 fingertip on the chair instead of your whole hand, and eventually with no support at all, arms relaxed at your sides. Exercise 3. The backward trail. Here's something worth thinking about for a second. Most of us walk forward many thousands of times a day, and walk backward almost never. Which means your brain gets an enormous amount of practice judging the space in front of you, and almost no practice at all judging the space behind you. That's a real gap, because backing carefully away from something, a hot stove, an unexpected step you didn't notice, a dog underfoot, absolutely requires balance. And it's a kind of balance most people have never specifically trained. Find a clear hallway or open stretch along a wall, and if you need support to start, place 1 hand lightly on the wall as you go. Walk backward slowly and deliberately, letting your heel touch down first each time, then the rest of your foot rolling down behind it. Take 10 small, controlled steps backward. Then carefully turn around and walk 10 steps forward back to where you started. That's 1 complete round, and 2 rounds is a great place to begin. This will likely feel strange and slightly uncomfortable the first few times you try it. That feeling of unfamiliarity is not a bad sign. It's exactly the signal that you're building a genuinely new skill instead of just repeating something your body already knows how to do on autopilot. Exercise 4. The knee pull. Think about the moment your toe catches a rug edge, a curb, or an uneven patch of sidewalk. whether that turns into a smooth recovery or an actual fall, often comes down to one simple thing: how quickly and how high your leg can lift to clear the obstacle once your brain realizes something's in the way. If your hip muscles are slow to respond, that split second of delay is often the entire difference. Stand tall behind your chair with your hands resting lightly on the back. Slowly lift your right knee up toward your waist, not all the way to your chest, just high enough that you feel your hip muscles genuinely engage, while keeping your upper body upright instead of leaning backward to compensate. Hold for a full 2 seconds at the top of the movement. Then lower your foot back down slowly, really slowly, as if you're setting down something fragile that you don't want to drop or rush. Repeat on your left leg. That's 1 complete rep, and 10 reps on each leg is a solid target. That slow lowering phase matters every bit as much as the lift itself, because it's training the exact kind of controlled muscle response that keeps your foot from slamming down awkwardly when you're catching yourself from a real stumble. As this gets easier over time, try doing it without holding the chair at all, letting your arms come out slightly to your sides for balance instead. Exercise 5. The reach across. A surprising number of real falls happen during the simple act of reaching for a cabinet, a grandchild reaching back for you, a dropped set of keys, something that rolled just out of easy reach under the table. Stand tall behind your chair with your left hand resting lightly on the back of it for support. Lift your right leg just slightly off the ground, only an inch or two, and reach your right arm out and across your body toward the left side, almost as if you're handing something to someone standing beside you. Bring your arm back to center, then reach that same arm out toward the right side instead. That's 1 full reach in each direction. Do 6 reaches in each direction, then switch your support hand and repeat the entire sequence using your left leg and left arm. What makes this exercise so valuable is that it trains your whole body to stay stable and grounded while your attention, your eyes, and your arms are all genuinely occupied somewhere else entirely, which is precisely what happens during real moments throughout your actual day. Exercise 6. The slow rise. Getting up out of a chair is, statistically and practically, one of the single riskiest ordinary moments built into an average day, and almost nobody ever practices it on purpose. We just do it the same rushed way, over and over, for years, without ever questioning whether we're doing it well. Sit toward the front edge of a sturdy, stable chair with your feet flat on the floor, roughly hip-width apart. Cross your arms over your chest so that you genuinely can't cheat by pushing off with your hands. Lean your upper body very slightly forward from your hips, bringing your nose roughly over your toes, and then press firmly through your heels to stand up slowly and with full control, avoiding any jerking or rocking motion to build up momentum. Once you're completely upright, pause there for a full 2 seconds. Then lower yourself back down using that same slow, controlled effort, never simply dropping the last few inches into the seat. That's 1 repetition, and 8 repetitions is a good place to start. If doing this entirely without your hands feels too difficult at first, that's completely fine and very normal. Rest your hands lightly on your thighs for a bit of assistance, and gradually use them less and less as the weeks go by, working toward full control with no hand support at all. Before we move on to building all of this into a daily habit, I want to give you a clear picture of which exercise protects you from which specific kind of fall. because understanding that connection tends to make people far more consistent with their practice. It's one thing to be told, "Do this, it's good for you." It's another thing entirely to understand exactly what real-world danger each movement is quietly defending you against every time you practice it. The doorway lean is your defense against forward falls, the kind that happen when you reach too far forward, lean into a cabinet, or simply tip slightly while standing still. The catch step is your defense against sideways falls, the kind that happen while turning, reaching to one side, or stepping around furniture. The backward trail protects you during the moments you're stepping away from something, backing out of a doorway, or moving away from a hot stove or an open drawer. The knee pull is specifically your defense against trips, the kind caused by rugs, curbs, pets, or uneven pavement, where your leg needs to lift fast enough to clear the obstacle before it's too late. The reach across protects you in the in-between moments, when your attention and your arms are occupied elsewhere, and your legs have to keep you upright without any conscious help from your brain. And the slow rise protects you during one of the single highest risk transitions of your entire day, the simple act of standing up and sitting back down, which happens dozens of times before lunch alone. When you think about your day this way, you start to realize that fall risk isn't really one single problem with one single solution. It's 6 or 7 very specific, everyday moments, each one needing its own kind of preparation. And that's exactly why a single exercise, no matter how good it is on its own, was never going to be enough by itself. It's also worth taking a moment to talk honestly about why so many people start a routine like this with real enthusiasm and then quietly stop within 2 or 3 weeks. Because seeing this pattern clearly in advance is often enough to help you avoid it entirely. The most common reason isn't laziness, and it isn't a lack of willpower either, no matter what people tend to tell themselves after the fact. The most common reason is simply that the early progress is invisible. Your nervous system is absolutely adapting from the very first session, rebuilding those connections we talked about earlier. But you can't see a nerve pathway getting sharper, and you can't feel a reflex getting half a second faster. Not directly, not at first. So after a week of effort with no obvious dramatic change to point to, motivation naturally starts to fade, simply because the brain is wired to look for visible proof that something is working. The way around this isn't more willpower. It's tracking something you actually can see. Notice whether you're still gripping the chair as tightly during the catch step as you were on day 1. Notice whether the backward trail feels less strange than it did the first time you tried it. Notice whether you can hold the doorway lean position for longer before your toes have to work hard to pull you back. Those small, noticeable shifts are the real, visible evidence that the invisible work underneath is genuinely happening, and they tend to be exactly what keeps people going long enough to reach the point where the results become impossible to ignore. Now let's talk about how to actually turn these 6 movements into a habit that sticks. Because this is the part where most people, with the very best intentions, quietly fall off track within the first week or 2. Don't try to do all 6 of these every single day starting tomorrow morning. That's a recipe for feeling overwhelmed, and an overwhelmed routine is a routine that gets abandoned. Instead, start with just 2. The doorway lean and the catch step are the best possible place to begin, because together they cover both forward and sideways stability, which are the two directions involved in the vast majority of everyday falls. Practice just those two for about a week, doing them in short little bursts, just a minute or two at a time, scattered naturally throughout your day. Do the doorway lean while your morning coffee or tea is brewing. Do the catch step during a commercial break while you're watching television. Once those two genuinely feel steady, with no wobbling and no instinctively reaching for support, add a third exercise. Then, roughly a week later, add a fourth, then a fifth, then the sixth. By the end of somewhere around 5 or 6 weeks, you'll be moving through the entire set almost without thinking about it. And the whole routine combined will take you less than 10 minutes total across your day. I want to add one more thing here that genuinely matters more than most people expect it to. Please don't skip these exercises on the days you happen to feel especially steady and strong. I understand the temptation completely. When you're feeling great, it's very easy to quietly think to yourself that you've already got this handled, that today you can take the day off without it mattering. But here's the truth. Every single repetition you do on a good day is precisely what builds the reflex that ends up firing automatically on a bad day. The one day you genuinely need it. When your foot unexpectedly catches something you didn't see coming, and your entire body has to decide, in a fraction of a second, whether to catch itself smoothly or go down hard. You're not training for today. You're training for that one specific moment, whenever it happens to come, when your body needs to already know exactly what to do without you having to consciously think about it at all. And I want to be completely honest with you about one more important piece of this puzzle, because leaving it out would genuinely be doing you a disservice. Balance training alone, even done perfectly, won't fully protect you on its own. The legs underneath that balance system need real strength as well, because strength is what actually gives your balance system the power to act fast enough once it senses something is wrong. You can have the sharpest reflexes in the world, but if your leg muscles are too weak to respond quickly and forcefully when that reflex fires, the warning arrives on time and the recovery still comes too late. Research consistently shows a strong, meaningful link between weaker leg strength and a significantly higher likelihood of experiencing a fall. And that connection makes complete sense once you think about it. Weaker legs mean a slower, less powerful response the moment your body needs to push back against gravity and recover. They mean less stability through your hips and knees with literally every step you take throughout the day. And over months and years, that quiet decline chips away not just at your physical safety, but at your confidence, your posture, and your overall willingness to move freely through your own life. Think for a moment about how many ordinary parts of an average day genuinely depend on leg strength without you ever consciously noticing it. Standing up from a low couch, climbing a single step up onto a curb or a porch, walking steadily across an uneven parking lot, catching yourself the instant you trip on something unexpected. Every single one of those completely ordinary moments requires your leg muscles to fire quickly and with real power behind them. When that strength quietly fades, the risk tied to all of those small, everyday moments climbs noticeably, often without you fully realizing it's happening until something actually goes wrong. But here is exactly what I most want you to take away and hold on to from everything we've covered today. Your legs can absolutely get stronger at any age. Full stop. It does not matter whether you're 70, 75, 85, or well beyond that. The muscle fibers in your legs are still completely capable of responding to the right kind of consistent training. They haven't given up on you. They are simply waiting for a clear, repeated reason to come back online and get stronger again. And even modest, steady improvement, the kind that genuinely comes from simple, equipment-free exercises done consistently at home a few times each week, can make a real and noticeable difference in your overall fall risk, your day-to-day stability, and your honest confidence in your own 2 feet. That's exactly why I've put together a separate video dedicated entirely to the best leg strengthening exercises specifically for people over 70. Every single exercise in that video is genuinely safe, requires absolutely no gym equipment, can be done comfortably right at home in your own space, and is appropriate for every fitness level, including someone who has never done a structured exercise in their life. That video is the natural next step after everything you just learned here, and I genuinely encourage you to watch it next while all of this is still fresh in your mind. Whatever you do after watching this, please don't let today be the day you nodded along, felt motivated for a few minutes, and then quietly forgot all about it by tomorrow afternoon. That happens to nearly everyone with nearly every good piece of advice they come across. And I don't want it to happen here. Not with something this important. So here's what I genuinely ask of you right now. Pick just one exercise from everything we covered today. Just one. The doorway lean is a great place to start if you're not sure. And do it right now, before you do anything else. Before you close this video, before you get distracted by the next thing on your screen or the next thing on your to-do list. Because your future self, the version of you who is still steady, still confident, and still walking through their own home and their own life on their own terms 10 years from now, is genuinely counting on the small choice you make in the next 60 seconds. Not someday, not next week when you feel more motivated. Right now, while it's still on your mind and the doorway is probably just a few steps away from wherever you're sitting. That one small choice, repeated consistently, is exactly how you keep your independence for years longer than you might think is possible, and exactly how you give yourself the very best chance of living out your life steady, confident, and fully on your own terms.